Well, thank you very much for gathering here as we R-1503, the Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Bill. I'm Pierre Otazzi. I'm the staff director of the Congressional Executive Commission on China. We've gathered here are a number of the organizations that are here in support. Let me quickly go through them. There's the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China. We'll have someone speaking for them. The Lantos Foundation, the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, the Remembrance Society, World Without Genocide, China Aid, Falun Dafa Information Center, World Uyghur Congress, Uyghur Human Rights Project, and we'll have a speaker there, Campaign for Uyghurs, Rushan Abbas will also speak, the Uyghur American Association, the Friends of Falun Gong, the American Council on Women, Peace and Security. We also have from the China Democracy Foundation, Dean Baxendale, and also we may be joined by somebody from the UK Conservative Party Human Rights Commission. With that, I'd like to introduce the bill's sponsor, Congressman Chris Smith, who, as you know, is one of the longest-serving members of Congress. I think it's Hal Rogers and Chris Smith. Hal Rogers beats him because R comes before S in the alphabet. So he's got a.
So he's the dean.
He's the dean by 10 minutes. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce Chris Smith, the co-chair of the Congressional Executive Commission on China and the sponsor of HR 1503. Thank you.
Pierre, thank you so very much. And you know, one of the first amendments that I offered as a member of Congress, I've been here since 1981. I came with Ronald Reagan, was on the horrific use of forced abortion in the People's Republic of China, pursuant to their one-child-per-couple policy. Been working on human rights vis-a-vis China ever since, and have worked with these amazing people to my left and to my right, who have been truth bearers, who have stood up, often at great expense to themselves and their families, and they're here today to bear witness to an absolutely ugly truth being committed right now as we meet by Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party. They are murdering tens of thousands of young people, Uyghurs, Falun Gong practitioners, and some others, in order to steal their organs. The average age is 28, although it's between 25 and 30 usually. They call the healthiest young people, and then they sell their organs to the highest bidder. For Xi Jinping, this is a huge money maker. These are the kind of atrocities that are analogous to the Nazi Germany when they were doing horrific experiments on individuals. And now we have a situation where they're taking these organs, and the estimate is between 2 and 6 organs per person. I had one hearing where we actually had one of the doctors that did these horrific extractions. Again, they're not voluntary, they're absolutely coercive. And he said he couldn't believe it, after the fact, what he had done. He even said, I didn't give him enough anesthesia, and he started moving as I was removing his organs. I mean, this is Joseph Mengele-like, the infamous Nazi doctor, and it's being committed right now in the People's Republic of China in very large numbers. We've heard from many people over the years, including Ethan Gutman. My first hearing on this was back in 1998, and that's when Harry Wu brought over a police officer who showed us how they were killing people, executing them, and then taking their organs. But it was horrible, but it was a very, very small number. That number has ballooned and skyrocketed, and Ethan Gutman, in his famous book called The Slaughter, Mass Killings, Organ Harvesting in China's Secret Solution to its Descent Problem, walks through the whole history of how they have so industrialized this human rights abuse. We've introduced the Forced Organ Harvesting Act to stop it. We had the floor debate on Monday, and at 5 o'clock today, right behind me in the House of Representatives, we will be voting on that, and hopefully will be a positive vote. What does the bill do? It does a number of things. It one, calls on the State Department and Justice to do extensive studies as to what is happening. There's still a lack of understanding and actionable information because they're not looking. The human rights people at state are good people, but they're not doing as well as the tip office, trafficking in persons. But there needs to be an accelerated prioritization of this. We also, anyone who is involved with this, like say in Shanghai or anywhere else, we will refuse them a visa to come here, and also make them unable to participate economically in anything going on here. Probably the biggest and most important part is that we also have civil penalties of up to $250,000 and criminal penalties up to $1 million and imprisonment of not more than 20 years or both. So these are serious sanctions against individuals, and I think we need to stop the cover-up. There are many people in this town, particularly on K Street, who want to gloss over all of that, say, oh, aren't things nice with China? Not when they're killing people the way they are doing. And young people, any 28-year-old say, what it would be like to be laying on a hospital table, trussed down, right before they put you to sleep, if they put you to sleep, taking your organs. It is outrageous, and we're going to stop it to the greatest extent possible through this legislation. We hope the Senate will take it up, and I appeal to them to do so quickly, and I know the President will sign it once it comes to his desk. So I'd like to ask Mark Yang, and you want to do something?
Let me introduce. I think Dean's got a plane to catch.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Now, one of our speakers is from Canada, and being Canadian, he's a hockey fan, and he has tickets to the Maple Leafs game tonight. So out of deference to him and the plane that he has to catch in about, you've got to leave in very shortly, we're going to ask Dean Baxendale to speak. Dean, by the way, is also among other hats that he wears, a publisher, and just published Rushan Abbas's book, just came out. Just yesterday, the book launch. So highly recommend that as well. Well, with that, Dean, since you have a plane to catch and a hockey match to see tonight, we're going to surrender the podium to you.
Thank you, Pierre. Chris, thanks for this legislation. It's great once again to be here in Washington. This is where things happen, and sometimes not. And with respect to China and the atrocities that continue to take place for all peoples inside China, this is a time to reflect upon the kind of work that the CECC has done, the Congressional Executive Committee on China, Chris Smith and his championing of a number of bills over the years to bring the atrocities of the Chinese Communist Party to bear for all people. This is not an American problem. This is a global problem where governments around the world need to come together and actually work on legislation that takes on the CCP in a serious way, penalizes them, puts people in jail if they decide to come to our countries. But we need to do what they're doing to us. They continue atrocities all over the world. They continue transnational repression. And Rushan Abbas's book, Unbroken, which will officially be launched here in Washington on June 3rd, speaks of the atrocities to the Uyghur people. But this goes to the Falun Dafa. This is the Hong Kongers. And we have published a number of books on these subjects. David Kilgore first alerted me really to this. David Kilgore, a Liberal MP in Ottawa, wrote a book called Bloody Harvest. And it was through David. He was on the board for the China Democracy Fund. And David really gave me the deep dive on this particular, what I call a genocide as well. So we need to stand together as Americans, as Canadians, as global citizens to combat the scourge that is the Chinese Communist Party. It is the world's largest transnational organized crime group, as I have published in a number of different books, and we need to continue to expose them. Hopefully they reform, and we allow the people in China to be free. So thanks again for being here, and look forward to the next speakers. Thank you.
Thanks. You want to throw the book there? Yeah, there you got it. Good. All right, thank you. Well, why don't we segue to Rushan Abbas, since we just heard her name mentioned, and then after that, Mark, we'll go to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We are here today to confront a horror that is hard to even imagine, but the data makes it undeniable. The Chinese Communist Party is cashing in on the full-fledged active genocide of the Uyghurs and the Falun Gong practitioners and the millions more profiting from an economy built on human suffering. The world cannot afford to look away. It's not enough that the Chinese government surveils Uyghurs' every move, stealing all Uyghur data. It's not enough that they invade our homes and violate Uyghur women in the most private and sacred places. It's not enough that over 1 million Uyghur children are taken from their families and placed in state-run orphanages. It's not enough that Uyghur women are forcibly sterilized, erasing future generations. It's not enough that Uyghurs are enslaved in forced labor camps to make profit for global corporations. They are also harvesting our people's organs, harvesting Uyghur Muslims' organs and calling it halal organs. The body of the Uyghurs is exploited in every way imaginable. The year that Uyghur genocide began, China's liver transplant rose 90%, and the kidney transplant increased by 200%. That is not a coincidence. That is the policy for forced organ harvesting by the Chinese regime. The Aksu Infection Hospital in East Turkestan, in my homeland, just 20 minutes from the airport, which has a dedicated organ transport channel, special line dedicated for people transferring the human organs. And who did they target? Young and healthy Uyghurs who are 20 to 30 years old. The latest Xinjiang police files released by Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation showed thousands of leaked photos and mugshots of unjustly detained Uyghurs. Next to their mugshots, their blood types are listed, but only for the young Uyghurs aged from 16 to their late 20s. Not the elder ones, but only the young ones. Uyghurs are cataloged like inventory. Their biometric data enables the CCP to make organ matches in real time. The people disappear overnight, and their lungs, hearts, and kidneys and the livers are sold to the highest bidder. Why? Because we are Muslims and we don't drink and we don't eat pork, and it's being commercialized as the halal organs. The Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act, led by Congressman Chris Smith, is a needed step toward justice that has taken far too long. We appreciate Congressman Chris Smith's leadership on exposing those atrocities and advocating for the voiceless, millions of voiceless people. Uyghurs did not choose to live under a ruthless, inhumane dictatorship. It's up to us to hold the CCP accountable for their crimes and against humanity. The Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act must be passed immediately, and we all need to do what we should. Otherwise, if we don't speak out today, then the only voice left will be one of regret. And we are all responsible for what happens next. Thank you.
Thank you, Rushan. Such a powerful voice that you have. And you made that point that it's because of the healthy diet and the healthy approach that you have, Uyghurs are also targeted. We also see that with the Falun Gong too. It's because of the healthy lifestyles that there's a demand for such organs. And when we first noticed it was really the Falun Gong practitioners that were targeted. So with that, we're going to give the podium over to Mark Yang. He's part of that younger generation of Falun Gong leaders from the Falun Dafa Information Center, and he's going to share with us his observations. So, Mark, please.
Good afternoon. In 2006, the news broke out that the CCP operates a state-sanctioned practice of live forced organ harvesting. Testimonies from Chinese medical staff and other whistleblowers have revealed that Falun Gong practitioners and other prisoners of conscience are being systematically killed for their organs. At the time, many struggled to comprehend it. The abuse was so gruesome, so unprecedented, that many found it difficult to believe. Prominent human rights lawyer David Matas captured this sentiment by describing China's practice as, I quote, "a new form of evil we have yet to see on this planet," end of quote. But nearly 20 years later, we are no longer standing in disbelief. Thanks to the tireless investigations by Ethan Gutman, David Matas, David Kilgore, the China Tribunal, Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting, the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse, and many brave journalists, NGOs, and medical professionals. The evidence is now overwhelming. And thanks to Representative Chris Smith, who has stood with us from the very beginning, we now see the fruits of his unwavering leadership. His Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act has gained wide bipartisan support and is set for a vote today in the House of Representatives. We have truly come a long way. However, there is still much to be done. The Chinese Communist Party remains one of the most serious threats to human rights and freedom. Since 1999, millions of Falun Gong practitioners have been brutally persecuted, detained, imprisoned, and tortured for simply upholding their faith of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Simultaneously, China's transplant industry has exploded in size, growing at a pace that defies any ethical explanation. So far, there are 5,000 well-documented deaths due to torture and abuse. Moreover, an unknowable number, likely hundreds of thousands as estimated by the China Tribunal, have been slaughtered for their organs. Today, this horror is still going on. There have been multiple incidences in recent years where some Chinese doctors' comments to a journalist or foreign medical professionals made clear that this type of systematic abuse is an open secret in China. And it's not just targeting Falun Gong practitioners. Uyghur Muslims, house Christians, and other prisoners of conscience are being swept into the same machinery of abuse. That is why we're standing here today, to urge our members of Congress to stop the killing and to hold the CCP accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And we're going to turn now to Omar Kanat, who is the president of the Uyghur Human Rights Project, which is an excellent organization, not just advocacy, but also does research. And I know you have a report coming out on hotel chains, which already came out. Hotel chains, big chains that are well known, that are active in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. And it's, again, this corporate complicity here. But today, Omar, you're going to address the crowds. I surrender the podium to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Piero. Good afternoon. The Uyghur Human Rights Project strongly endorses H.R. 1503. We thank Representative Smith for reintroducing this bill. This legislation passed the House by a margin of 413 to 2 in 2023. We call on the House to once again pass this bill. in the middle of an ongoing genocide, we need many more concrete, enforceable policies to end complicity in the Chinese government's atrocities. Uyghurs are suffering a complete plan of genocide to wipe out Uyghur culture, religion, and identity. The government is sterilizing Uyghur women by force, aborting Uyghur women's babies by force, and separating young Uyghurs through a large-scale labor transfer and forced labor program. The effect of these policies is very clear: to stop the formation of Uyghur families and ensure the end of the Uyghur people within a few generations. The unspeakable torture and brutality in the concentration camps is truly shocking. When a people are so dehumanized as the Uyghurs are, there is nothing to stop the authorities from using Uyghurs as a living organ bank. In June 2019, the Chinese tribunal, headed by Sir Jeffrey Nice, concluded that forced organ harvesting was a long-term practice in People's Republic of China. In response, Mr. Smith's bill is very important to end the complicity. The Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act of 2025 is a key policy tool to punish and deter atrocity crimes. It is past time for the U.S. and other countries to impose sanctions on anyone who is involved in human trafficking for the purpose of organ harvesting. It is also encouraging that action at the state level is also happening. 2 years ago, I testified in Texas on their state-level bill on forced organ harvesting, led by the chair of the Texas House Insurance Committee, Tom Oliverson, who is a medical doctor. After this hearing, the CECC invited Dr. Oliverson to Washington to testify before CECC in March 2024. That briefing was focused specifically on Uyghurs and the CCP's forced organ trafficking industry. We once again thank CECC Representative Chris Smith, especially Representative Chris Smith, for his relentless drive to expose and stop this terrible crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar, for that. We're next going to turn to Louisa Grieve. Now, Louisa wears a number of different hats, including with the Uyghur Human Rights Project. But today, however, she's going to be speaking on behalf of the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse. So, Louisa, we'll surrender the podium to you.
Thank you, Piero. I am very pleased to be here representing the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China, known as ETAC for short. It is a truly international coalition, including lawyers, academics, medical ethicists, medical professionals, and researchers and human rights researchers. And so ETAC strongly endorses H.R. 1503, deeply grateful to Representative Smith and Representative Keating for their leadership in reintroducing this important bill. As Omar mentioned, this bill has passed the House already by an enormous margin, over 400 people voting in favor. So we're confident that this bipartisan support will continue today in the vote this afternoon. The China Tribunal has been mentioned. This was begun in 2018 when ETAC asked Sir Jeffrey Nice to chair a legal review of the evidence regarding the organ transplant industry in China and its ethical gaps or atrocities, including especially political prisoners on a large scale. The China Tribunal delivered its final judgment in 2019, so already more than 5 years ago, and the conclusion was that organ harvesting was, quote, a long-term practice in the PRC, and also concluded that the entire tribunal was unanimous in believing, quote, beyond reasonable doubt, that forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience was occurring. It's also very encouraging to note support in Congress from Representative Neil Dunn and other members of Congress who would like to get at the insurance companies, as is being done in the Texas bill that Omer mentioned. And Congressman Smith, it's incredible to recall that this testimony that you heard was 25 years ago, I believe, from 28 years ago, a doctor who, at great risk to his colleagues and so on who are back in China, told the U.S. Congress what he'd been forced to do as part of his hospital duties. So your dedication to ending these despicable crimes is truly inspirational to us all. It should not be taking this long. So it is past time for the U.S. and for other countries to impose sanctions. We also need to put pressure on universities who are publishing medical journals, who are inviting medical professionals, particularly transplant surgeons, to conferences, to have perks and recognition on the international stage in the medical profession, which ought to, first and foremost, be upholding these universal principles of medical ethics. So it's unacceptable for the entire medical profession, including publications, conferences, visiting fellowships, and practice partnerships in our own hospitals around the world, working with Chinese doctors. That business as usual should not continue with the Chinese medical profession as long as the existing transplant industry is carrying out these kind of systematic human rights crimes. So on behalf of ETAC, I would like to thank the Congress for having passed this bill already, and to thank Congressman Smith for making sure it happens again today. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Luis. And just noting one thing you said, though, about inviting people to conferences, maybe after the bill passes, so that they come here, they could be subject to the penalties that are contained in the bill. Okay. Now, with that, we're going to turn to Elfidar Iltabir. She's the president of the Uyghur American Association. She's a tremendously hard worker. I see these signs here, Elfidar. They're yes, part of your handiwork. And with that, we're going to turn the podium over to you. Thank you.
Dear Congressman Smith, distinguished lawmakers, advocates, members of the press, my name is Elfidar. As I was introduced, I speak to you today as representing the Uyghur community in the U.S., but not only the Uyghur community, as the voice of the silenced people of East Turkestan, the voice of those whose cries are buried behind the cold walls of China's concentration camps, forced labor factories, prisons. I stand before you with a heavy heart and a fierce determination to support the Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act of 2025, which is H.R. 1503. The Chinese government is not only committing a genocide against the Uyghur people, it is converting Uyghur lives into a supply chain for profit-driven, state-run organ transparent business. Our brothers and sisters, as well as the Falun Gong practitioners and prisoners of conscience, young, healthy, and devout, are being turned into inventory for China's booming transparent industry. This is not a rumor, not a speculation. This is a calculated state-sanctioned industry of murder for profit. We have chilling evidence, survivors' testimonies, investigative reports, and credible documentation that revealing that Uyghur detainees are subject to blood tests, DNA profiling, full-body medical screening, and tissue matching. But these tests are not for medical care. They are not for healing, they are for harvesting. Our people never received their results, as we know. Instead, they vanished, their organs surgically extracted, their bodies discarded. And in the most barbarian betrayal of faith and humanity, these organs are marketed as halal to wealthy recipients in the Muslim majority countries. The very identity that China seeks to erase is used to sell the body of Uyghur victims. This is a new kind of atrocities, as we all know, and not just genocide, but genocide for sale. The members of Congress, you have the power to act. By passing the H.R. 1503, you will shine a light on this horrific trade. This bill empowers the U.S. to investigate, expose, and hold accountable those who participate in the profit from forced organ harvesting. It also sends a powerful message that America will not be complicit in the trafficking of human life. To remain silent is to allow this horror to continue. To delay is to condemn more innocent lives. To vote yes, to say never again, not on our watch. We are confident this bill will pass the House with overwhelming support today. We urge everyone to expedite its passage through the Senate and send it swiftly to the President's desk as soon as possible. We Uyghurs have lost too much, our families, our freedom, our homeland, and do not let us lose our very bodies too. Stop these crimes against humanity, stop this commodification of life, and stop the Uyghur genocide. Let's pass the H.R. 1503. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elfidar. So with that, maybe if folks have questions, you can ask our assembled experts here, and or you can conduct interviews with them. So I don't know if there are any questions here. All right. Well, with that, I thank you, and thank you, Congressman Smith, and thank you, everyone. All right.
Thank you for having picture with you with my team?
Yes, take a picture.